What's going on, everybody? Alright, so today's stream is basically just going to be the Final Fantasy 15 preview. If anyone would like to follow along, feel free to do so. Dirge.tv is the website that I use to publish the event previews, and everyone can just read along with them because they usually publish them the night before, and they are all active. So let's get right to it. I'll hop over to the event list and take a look at our Final Fantasy 15 event preview. I don't believe we're going to be seeing this until next week. So we're skipping a week because we just got the rebirth stuff this week and the newcomer stuff. Which, by the way, I don't suggest anyone pull on. That banner is good for nobody, and neither of the two remaining banners in the newcomer series are good for anybody at all. So that would be my suggestion, would be not to pull on them. So back to this event. We're going to be seeing next week on Thursday, August 17th. We get Iris and Gladiolus. Here we have a fresh new Final Fantasy 15 realm and a couple new characters to go along with it. Gladiolus and Iris, the sibling super duo, join Noctis to provide a solid start to the new realm. The best part of this is the fact that we've never had a 15 banner before, which means that this is a clean banner other than those few that drew on the Summer Festival banner too and ended up with Noctis as OSB. That's a really nice thing as long as the character is good and the relics follow suit. Luckily for us, they are, and they do. As you can see, we have a little new format, some graphical improvements that I made to the event preview. Just little sprites here, but more gets shown later on. I should turn this down, even though it was a good song. Anyway, so we have Gladiolus, who is a tank. He's a knight. He's a samurai knight. And his stats reflect that. Has a fairly decent attack. A huge health pool, great defense. His resistance, like most defense-focused knights, is not as high as his defense, not even by a long shot. But there you go. He's just a typical knight as far as his stats go. Weapons, daggers, swords, katanas, axes. It's good equipment. Katana's definitely because of his, for some reason, he's able to be a samurai. Armor, all the armor that knights usually can wear. Why is he cannot wear heavy armor? I'm checking that. He can taunt Elliot, yes. He can wear heavy armor, it's just not on the list, so don't mind that, and I'll make a note for myself to fix that later. So that's good. That's a really good thing because we're getting a plus earth armor a few events from here. Dorgon's armor. It's his BSB that shows up on the Bart's USB banner. And Gladiolus would very much benefit from being able to use that armor. If he was unable to use that, that would suck a lot. Ability school is very basic. Combat, knight, samurai. I don't think the samurai is that reflective of how he was in the game. I think he really would just be suited to be a combat knight, but obviously I'm not going to complain. Samurai is a great skill school now. With Hailstorm. And eventually the ability to use a 5-star Retaliate as well. Iris is a white mage, and she actually has the best or the second best, I think it's the second best behind Mog, stats as far as defenses go for a white mage in the entire game. So that's worthy of note. Weapons, daggers, fists, rod, staves, thrown, whatever. You know, I mean, she's a white mage. basically going to be looking at rods and staves, unless she uses thrown weapons. So she's the first thrown weapon white mage. Yeah. Armor, hat, slice armor, robes, bracers, whatever. Is there anything off there? No. White Magic 5, Monk 3, don't care, and Dance 4 and 5 with Record Dive. And that's basically your defining characteristic, is that she is another one of those dancer white mages like Penelo. But she angles more towards healing than Penelo does, at least until the next Final Fantasy XII event, in which Penelo gets a BSB2 and changes that. But otherwise, always great. Yeah, yes, Epic Wonder, indeed. Iris's weapon is a doll. It's a literal doll. But it's noted as a thrown weapon because DNA realized their mistake in making a unique equipment class for Lulu. And it's part of what makes Lulu so undesirable, I guess. Because knowing that the stuff that you get for her is only good for her and nobody else. Next up, we have the Legend Dives, and Noctis actually opens up here with them, so this is 3 new Legend Dives. And is there anything crazy going on here? I don't really care for the minor and moderate blind resist, because blind resist is so easy to get on accessories, major blind resist at that. So I would have rather it would have been something more like Confuse or Sleep or, you know, even Petrify over blind. But combat ability damage, obviously, really good for Noctis, and we'll find out why once we get to the banners. Gladiolus, typical. Oh, this is atypical. Noctis gets plus 20 speed. It's crazy that everything about Noctis is very quick. He has a bunch of zero cast time stuff. Everything that isn't zero cast time gives him statuses that reduces cast time. So it's kind of weird that he actually isn't meant to use celerity abilities at all, because celerity is just, you know, it's meant to be the quick ability school. He's completely combat ability focused. We see it here, we see it in his LMR where he gets 25% chance to dual cast combat. It's weird. I wish they had gone down the celerity route instead and just made him like an awesome Ripper Rush or Dervish character. But he actually has no business using those because of his combat augmentation. Gladiolus, typical. Moderate Confuse is nice. Iris is typical, and Moderate Silence is fine. We do have a major silence resist, though, so maybe I'll just loop that in with the same thing as Noctis. Ultimately, it doesn't matter. Normally, you're just looking whether or not this plus 9% that everybody gets is good, and it's good for all 3 of them, so hey. New Legend Materia. Noctis, physical 10%, sure. It's just straight up physical 10%. And Gladiolus, physical 10% with a condition. So, this is at least one of the better LM1s for what that's worth. However, Noctis' LM2 grants haste in its cast 3 at the beginning of battle. One of the best LM2s in the game. And it's a major factor in why Noctis is so ridiculously good, is because he is a speed clear monster, and that's a really nice thing to have on a non-elemental character for Magicite dungeons and Moat dungeons. So that LM2 is awesome. LM1 for Gladiolus, physical attacks, yeah, I already went over that, that's fine. Gladiolus' LM2 is not that good. 3% for each hit taken by damaging attacks up to 50%. Takes too long to ramp up. I hate ramp up abilities because the battle is... By the time this becomes even close to being as powerful as someone else's LM2 as far as like making an effect on the battle's almost already over. Or it is over. So I don't really care for these LM2s, and with such a shitty LM2, I'd probably, even if Gladiolus was a powerful member of my Earth team, I don't see a Legend Dive in Gladiolus' future. Next up we have Iris, which white abilities restore 15% more HP, that one's fine. And next up we have another ramp up, Mind plus 1% for each hit dealt with white magic abilities, and that makes it sound like it's damage, but it's not. It's, if you use a cure, you get plus 1% mind up to 35%. This is an awful LM2, and the brother and sister combo are matched in the fact that they're basically undiveable, which is good or bad depending on how you want to look at it. We only have so many people that we can dive because we're gated by our 5-star moats. And these characters can be good without their legend dives. And I honestly, I feel like that's important because they don't tax your mind. Like, oh my god, who am I gonna legend dive? Iris and Gladiolus don't have to take up that room in your mind. So moving on, we get to the only banner, and it starts out with Noctis OSB. And here you find another graphical improvement. Someone suggested that I put the image of the relic on each area, and I did that because it was easier than I thought it was to do. So I'm fine with that. And what I also did, and something I didn't mention when I advertised this yesterday in Discord, is that by clicking on the image, you can open the soul break animation. I'm considering turning like this string right here. Oh god. Sorry, all you headphone users out there. But anyway, animation. I was considering turning this instead because it'd be more obvious that it was a link. Yes, this is on my website. So I wouldn't have to, you know... this wouldn't be like this being a link to the animation wouldn't be an Easter egg. So that's probably something I'll do for the next one. Always trying to improve. So let's go over Noctis's OSB. Sword of the Father. Just plain sword. Non-elemental. And for OSBs, something I didn't do on the previous... Well, there was no OSB on the previous, but on any previous banner, I did not state the multiplier on the OSB. And I feel like the multiplier is a very important part of the OSB. So I'm going to be putting that here from now and into the future. But here we go. 15.0, that's three more than the usual 12.0. Breaks damage cap, grants Armiger, and Stone Skin 30% to the user. Stone Skin 30% reduces damage taken to 0 up to the amount of damage equal to 30% of the maximum HP of the person. So it puts a damage absorption bubble on you for 30% of your maximum HP. And that is relevant here. As we see, the key status Armiger provides him with 30% attack, cast speed times 3. This is equal to high quick cast. Hey Silver, how's it going? And it is removed only if the user doesn't have any Stone Skin. Otherwise, it has an infinite duration. That's important. I have a big write-up here talking about that because that's a kind of a unique thing we haven't seen yet. With a massive multiplier and a strong buff, one could be forgiven for lumping this together with Orlando's overpowering OSB, but there's a couple key differences. First, its purely non-elemental damage hinders its ability to be boosted, but also ensures strength versus nearly any boss. Second, Armiger has an infinite duration as long as Noctis never loses the Stone Skin status. This is a tough sell by itself, as I rarely see Stone Skin 30% last longer than Orlando's Thundergaunt's Might, which has a 25-second duration. The key here, is that the Stone Skin need not be the one that he receives with the OSB cast, so it can be refreshed by external sources, like Noctis's Burst Soul Break Command 2 and Iris's Burst Soul Break entry. But most importantly, this creates a combo in the future with Noctis's USB, which grants him Stone Skin 100%, as well as another buff that lasts as long as Stone Skin is active. So they build off of each other as well as giving him a gigantic absorption bubble, in which to extend the duration of this. Alone, however, this is a finisher for Noctis and little more. Could you have the image discolor if you move the cursor over it? I could. I'll see if I can create an image class for it and make that easy to implement. I just don't want to add a lot of steps when I'm making these. I am making slow progress on my beginner's guide on the site, but honestly, I spend a lot of work, like 3-4 hours at the moment, creating these event previews. So I want to try to chisel that down instead of expand it. Just posting the images are pretty easy. No recurrence. It does not come back. It likely will in the next Final Fantasy 15 event, especially if they keep up with the 4 6-stars per banner that we saw on the Onion Knights banner they just launched in Japan. But as of now, and from what we see in the future, there is no recurrence. So I have this at 60 out of 100, but plus 10 if you plan on pulling for Noctis's USB on the 30th anniversary banner. Noctis's USB is a debut on that banner. The source is my website. And I just posted in the chat. That command is available to anybody. No problem. Got something caught in my eye. It's annoying. Good for a non-elemental team. By itself, I wouldn't say so. It doesn't do enough. It doesn't do enough, I don't think. It's only a 15.0, which seems like a lot. But you gotta remember, it can't be boosted because it's not elemental. So what are you doing? Are you just life siphoning up to a 15.0 single strike? Yeah, I'm not too high on it by itself. But it does get considerably better if you've got other things. And I'll talk about these later on the banner. Especially Noctis's USB. Like I mentioned here, that his USB is Stone Skin 100%. So what I would do is likely entrust battery Noctis and have him use his OSB, give him this Armiger status, and then immediately after, at cast speed times 3, cast his USB, which would overwrite Stone Skin 30% and give him a Stone Skin 100%. And then you could probably keep refreshing that, and he would always have Armiger active. And he would always have the Princely Power or whatever his USB gives him active as well, which is more damage boost. This is the next banner. Yeah. As far as we know, Dragon. It's good. It's more like... It's something I want to stow in the bank for now. I would probably still use it because my non-elemental is, like, awful. But, I think it could be replaced pretty easily by most. So this is not what makes Noctis good. What makes Noctis good is other stuff on the banner. And I guess that's one thing... that you're a new player, Silver, and you need to understand is that it's a 6-star, but that doesn't mean it's better than a 5-star. And we're going to see that with Noctis's other 3 relics that show up on this banner. They're all 5-stars, and they're all better than this. No, it does not give double soul gauge points. Dual casts will only award soul break points on the first cast. Next up, we have Gladiolus's OSB, a much shorter description here, but you'll see why. Because it's just a simple OSB. It's not like an Orlando Noctis class. The highlight is here is it is a plus fire sword. Even though Gladiolus is pretty much entirely earth, for some reason his sword is plus fire. Well, the sword itself in the game is plus fire. Or fire-ish, or whatever. I forget, it's actually been a little while since I played it now. But anyway, that's why. And what we get here is it's Earth Non-Elemental, and it starts out at an 11.44, but the multiplier increases with hits taken, and it can get up to a 12.93. That's fine. It's just a simple OSB. It does what OSBs do, and that's why there's not much of a description here. The second... Why did I rate this 60? This should be a 70 just on the virtue of it being a plus fire sword. The second 6-star fire sword after Seifer's USB. This one is on a much better banner. Otherwise, it's just an OSB, and that's great. As with most OSBs, the OSB itself is okay. But it's usually used as a finisher, where you generally want other things to be using during the course of a fight, where the OSB is either a phase skipper or a finisher. So you want them for very, very specific situations, and it's hard to create a valuable character with an OSB alone. That's why I feel like I rated it at 60. But here's the difference here is Gladiolus is plus fire. Or the sword is plus fire, which makes it a good relic by itself. You don't even need to use the OSB, and this is still a valuable thing to pull. And another thing is Gladiolus has access to Gaia Cross, and eventually has access to Earthbringer, an ability that's not available yet. Which means the Gladiolus with just abilities can actually be really good over the course of a fight. So I think I made a boo-boo here by rating it 60. I should have rated this 70 out of 100 and plus 10 with BSB. Because I think it is good by itself. And it does get better with the BSB. Yeah, it is totally weird, Strider. I agree. But it's okay. I mean, totally would have preferred that it was plus Earth. But it's only Realm Synergy only plus Earth. But I need a fire sword. I understand 6-star mean nothing, but it's the main weapon of Noctis, so I was expecting more. For that reason, because he's the main character of Final Fantasy 15. Well... yeah, I guess. Sure. So now we're going to move on to the BSBs. And we got Gladiolus. Earth Not Elemental 6 group. Grants haste, attach Earth burst mode. Typical entry. The command 1 is Earth Not Elemental Knight. And it gets up to 5 attacks at 0.48 each. So this is a pretty strong command. And all you need is 2490 defense. Sounds like a lot. It's not. Especially for a knight who have many ways to buff their defense. And it gets even better for Gladiolus because Earth and Elemental Knight, 2 single attacks, and grants Sentinel to the user for 25 seconds. Sentinel, defense plus 200%, and taunts single target PHY and BLK attacks for 25 seconds. So it's obviously meant to be used together. Yeah, you can get an enormous amount of defense on Knights. So this is actually an easy threshold to hit. So he has a really nice Command 1 and a Command 2 that gives him Sentinel. This is basically the Command 1 of Beatrix and Agrius, and you know how we talk about those. So let's talk about the relic itself. Here's the improved and earthen version of Warrior of Light's BSB. The first command is nice with a great scaling 5 hit, and the second that gives him Sentinel for tanking and help him hit that upper defense threshold in the first command. Just an all-around good BSB, and made better in the future with the release of Earthbringer, a 5-star knight ability similar to his C1, but with one less hit. It's a 4-hit ability, and a much higher multiplier. So what we have here is basically a 2.5 over 5 attacks. So it's a trade-off depending on how you feel your team is, how capable he is of hitting those damage caps. You can do 5 attacks at a 2.5 multiplier, or with Earthbringer later, which is basically the same thing. You get more attacks the more defense you have, but it is only 4 hits, but each attack is 1.0. So that's a total multiplier of a 4.0 over those 4 hits. So that's a much higher multiplier. Honestly, Earthbringer will most likely be the better choice over his Command 1. So Earthbringer does improve him. However, Earthbringer won't be necessary for him because of this. That's all. Recurrence, 30th Anniversary Banner 5. So this appeared on the same banner that Noctis' USB did. I have a question mark, as I will always have a question mark, because it would be a recurrence, which means it's not... and since it's a festival, it's not guaranteed to recur. It could be replaced by something else. I don't think it will. Because there's only so much Final Fantasy 15 stuff in the game. Lady Chemist, thank you very much for the follow. I appreciate it. And I have this rated 70 out of 100. I think it's a really good burst, and it's for an element that not a lot of people have a lot of. And I think Gladiolus is a good character, so that received a pretty high rating from me. Next up, we've got the Moogle. Moogle Plushie. Iris is BSB. Kupo Cure. Restores HP 55. 55 is a Cura Medica. Grants Astra. And Stone Skin 30% and grants haste and burst mode to the user. Astra is prevents poison, paralyze, poison, silence, paralyze, confuse, slow, stop, blind, sleep, petrify, berserk, stab, stun, and frozen once. Frozen. I haven't seen that in a while. In the last 25 seconds. It's an excellent status. Did you do a relic review for the Newcomers Welcome campaign? Yes, I did. I talked about it for about 0.5 seconds at the start of the stream. I said, don't pull. Just don't pull. Please, for the love of God, just don't pull. Stone Skin 30%, saw that already. Command 1 is an instant cast. Restores HP 105. This is a Curaja level. And the next is a HP 25. This is your normal Command 2 Medica. Spidey asks, this may not be a fair question, but generally how high do you rate something before you consider pulling on a banner? Well, the thing is, yeah, that is a hard question. It's fair. It's a fair question, but it's a hard one to answer because normally when you look at banners, it's an eye of the beholder kind of thing. It really depends on what you've got. And when I make these ratings, I try to do so from an objective standpoint. So these ratings aren't ratings that I'm making for my pulling, I guess. It's a tough question. Like, ratings aren't so simple. That's why I can't really answer that. All I can do is like go into a summary of why I want to pull on something, and maybe something I say resonates or you disagree with it. Yeah. I usually try to explain the ratings because, like I said, ratings, they don't say enough. I just put them there because people expect them, and they are useful to a point. Just, yeah, I wouldn't suggest using that as your sole decider. Anyway, as a description of this Iris BSB, I do like Curaga Medicas more than Cura. This is a Cura, obviously, but I penalize them less than most. So what I'm saying here is that a difference between a Curaga Medica Soul Break and a Cura Medica Soul Break, I don't penalize Cura too heavily because I always feel that a lot of white mages really just have an overabundance of mind, and they cure really well with their entries. So, and there's a lot of overhealing involved in Curaga Medicas, so they're not that much better than Cura, and that's what I'm trying to say there. The most direct comparison that we can draw here is to Lars's BSB, which loses the Stone Skin 30% but gains Curaga over Iris's Cura. It is the only difference between the two. They are both Astra Peeler BSBs, but Iris loses a little bit of cure potency, but adds Stone Skin instead. Even considering Stone Skin's Soul Break generation issues, I'll take this BSB over Lars's. Of course, Larsa also has the coveted Wrath access, so he wins out there in the end. Either way, both of these healer BSBs are rightly considered two of the best in the game due to the Astra status and their appearance on great characters. Yeah, I feel like that's a small paragraph to write here about this relic because I think it's remarkably good. But yeah, I guess I sum that up here with a rating of 80, and I gave it a 90 with the LMR. Healer BSBs never go out of style, even with the ability upgrade, because healer abilities don't get affected. And when you bring your LMR into play, it makes Iris an S tier healer, one of the best healers in the game, and that's deserving of a 90 rating. And it does recur on the next Final Fantasy 15 event, ETA October 19th. But her LMR does not recur on that banner, so that's something to consider. And that's part of what's going to play into how I spend and whether or not I pull more than once on this banner. I'm going to pull once and then look at the next event and be like, well, I want to pull a second time on Final Fantasy 15. Would it make more sense to stay on this banner? Or would it make sense to go into the next banner? And I'll talk about the next banner because of that. I think it's very important because they're single banner events. Okay, so next up, we do have another thing for Noctis. His BSB, Princess Fatigues. It's light armor, non-elemental, and instant cast. You know, I love my instant cast. Instant cast means increased damage per second. And by a lot. A lot. 10 single attacks, so a 7.7 multiplier total. Grants Combat King to the user for 25 seconds and grants haste and burst mode. So because it's non-elemental, well, I actually go into that. Anyway, Combat King, attack, defense, and resistance plus 30%. This is an awesome status. It's a very old status, but Zell brought it in with one of his Super Soul Breaks, which is still a really good Super Soul Break. It's a good thing to see here. Well, anyway, his Command 1 is non-elemental combat, 2 single attacks at 0.95 each, and grants High Quick Cast 2 to the user. High Quick Cast 2 is cast speed times 3 and lasts for 2 turns. And this is the meat of why this BSB works, and I'll talk about that in the description. C2, Point Warp. It is just plain combat. There's no elemental status because it does no damage, and I'll talk about that. Grants Stone Skin 30% and Smart Ether 1 to the user. Yeah, I'll talk about the C2 and more in depth inside the description. Since there's no use giving a non-elemental user an element or imperil, you buff their stats instead. Combat King is an old but still great tri-buff, and that, the Instant Cast Sentry and the High Quick Cast 2 Command 1 gives us the keys to an Omega Drive or full charge machine. I'd say he's also a fine user of the damage-focused celerity abilities, but it's obvious from his LMR and Legend Dive that he's meant to be using combat abilities. Like I mentioned above, he gets plus damage when using combat abilities, not with celerity abilities. So you're going to be wanting to stick to Omega Drive or full charge. Omega Drive normally full charge if you have High Quick Cast 2 status, because High Quick Cast 2 increases your cast speed so considerably that there isn't much difference anymore between the cast speeds of things. The C2 seems to be intended to be used with his OSB to refresh the Stone Skin status. Remember what I said about on his OSB, you can keep refreshing it and maintain that High Quick Cast status. And you can get that here with his Command 2. So if you combined his OSB and BSB together, there is a combo there. However, but I feel that due to the fact that it does no damage, ends up hurting more than helping, even if you're able to restore a charge of Omega Drive in the process. Simpler to use than it looks, and potent with the right stuff to use it. What I mean by simpler to use than it looks is that it's an Instacast burst. You carry Life Siphon, and you carry Omega Drive or full charge in your second slot. You Life Siphon up to the BSB, you cast it, and then you Command 1 to give yourself High Quick Cast 2, you use Omega Drive or full charge, and then you use the C1 again, because that will also expend a charge of High Quick Cast 2, and then give you High Quick Cast 2 again from the end, and you do it again. So you just alternate. You do Command 1, Omega Drive, Command 1, Omega Drive, Command 1, Omega Drive, and until his BSB comes back up. And then you do it again. So by itself, it is a heavy non-elemental damage machine, and it gets better with other things added into it. Recurrence. We have 2 recurrences here. The next Final Fantasy 15 event, no Strider, not Shane Waterga. Rydia has double casts summoning abilities, and her BSB2 provides summoning damage increase. So Chain Waterga would actually be the wrong ability to use with it. You would use the ability that comes out in that event, Ogopogo, which is a 5-star water summon that does the same amount of damage as Tiamat. Obviously, not 4 hits like Chain Waterga is, but still an 18.0 multiplier, so gigantic. Spidey says, oh yeah, meant to mention Final Fantasy V. Curious what you think of the banner number 2 on Final Fantasy V Solus. I'm tempted to throw a poll there because I have 2 relics already for X-Death, but no Grand Cross. But I don't know how good the remaining relics are in that banner. Okay, Solus probably took care of that. Rating, I actually did only put it as a 60 because it is non-elemental and it just does good damage by itself. Everything, and you're going to find this out about Noctis, is very, very dependent on his LMR. So it's a good thing that his LMR recurs in the next Final Fantasy 15 event. And because Final Fantasy 15 is not really represented yet, they've shown that they want to represent it well, but it only has 2 events. But here we get 1 event, and the only other place Final Fantasy 15 relics show up on are the 5th banner of 30th anniversary. So it recurs in both of those places. So I would not be pulling on this banner for his BSB if you would like it. I personally would like it, but if I get other things, I would like other things instead, because I can get his BSB elsewhere, so I will be able to stop pulling on this banner and move that mithril forward into the future to pull on this relic on stronger banners. And both of these are stronger overall banners. And plus 20 is a big deal, but you'll find out why in a second. Noctis' LMR. It's a bracer and 25% chance to dual cast combat abilities. Everything except Noctis' Super Soul Break relies on this LMR to turn Noctis into the non-elemental freak that he is. So I got it rated 50 out of 100. I always rate LMR low, and they always get a huge plus when paired with other things, because it's rare for an LMR to be good just by itself. It does recur on the next Final Fantasy 15 event, so again, it kind of works into that same philosophy. But remember how we were talking about his BSB. There is only one person with dual cast combat other than Noctis, and that is Cloud. Cloud has an LM2 that gives him 35% dual cast combat. Noctis gets the LMR. And the LMR, if you've noticed, is just a reduced version of the LM2. And that's why you get 25% for Noctis and 35% for Cloud. Alright, with his LMR, remember how we were talking about using his BSB and using his Command 1 and then using Omega Drive or Full Charge. Just imagine dual casting an Omega Drive or Full Charge. It's a huge damage increase, and 25% is not small. I have the same dual cast on Celeste right now, and my Final Fantasy Tactics Torment fight notwithstanding, it's usually pretty often proc, and it's really nice. Don says, what makes you happy with this banner pull-wise? Could you ask me that again when I get to the end of the banner? Full Charge, it holds up well, and it's getting buffed. As long as you have the right stuff to use with it. I mean, it's falling behind a lot of things, but it still does a hell of a lot of non-elemental damage. And now that we're getting really powerful non-elemental characters, it's not as broad as it used to be. Its role has changed. That's a good way to put it. Before it was, okay, I have Tidus in this realm, but I don't have any soul breaks for him. Tidus can be a good submission character because all he needs to do is use Power Chain to Full Charge, and he's doing more damage than most people do with soul breaks. So that was Full Charge's former role, but now it moves into something more specialized. But when you consider that Noctis can be extremely strong using Full Charge, if you don't feel like honing Omega Drive to like R3, That's what it is. It's a hone saver if you're unable to be honing Omega Drive really highly. Um, with characters like Noctis, who speed up their attacks so much with the high quick casts, and eventually with his OSB and USB combo that gives him ×3 casts. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Our 3 Omega Drive looks rough, so full charge helps. But anyway, this is an awesome LMR, and I would be extremely happy to pull it. Gladiolus LMR. Shield. Shield of the King, 30% chance to cover physical attack, or PHY attacks, as there is a difference, that target allies, reducing damage taken by 20%. And something I didn't put here, I want to do my like little tooltip thing for cover, because it needs to be shown to people what cover really is. Cover is not just a taunt. Cover is he actually just gets in the way of attacks on people. And there's a key difference there, is that taunt doesn't have any effect on area of effect. Well, cover does allow the person to cover area of effect attacks. So Gladiolus would take damage from by himself for the attack he would receive by himself, and then he would also cover and take the damage for somebody else. So he's basically a pincushion, which is a good thing for someone like Gladiolus, who loves to get hit. He's a masochist. The second Final Fantasy V banner isn't as good. Yes, Solus. It's a good cover. No, that's the difference, and why I didn't say physical. I said PHY, because this is its damage type. Which this includes, is that even a word? NAT type. It is just PHY. It is not physical, it's PHY. And that is a guide that I need to make, because people need to be informed of the difference. Well, excludes. I don't know, I forget the sentence I was saying, but you're probably right, Dragon. I don't feel like it would be Raccoon. Because, yeah, I mean, yeah, this is fine. The problem is that it's not strong, that's all. So I'm not going to give it like plus 20 with OSB, because I put it at a rating of 70, and there is nothing strong about this that gives it makes it worthy of a 70 rating. This cover LMR, shared by many a knight, is underpowered and is simply a nice thing to have rather than a good foundation of what makes Gladiolus good. It's just not powerful. Do you think it would be worth making another R3 Guardbringer if I can run both Beatrix and Argus? If there's, automatically in almost any situation I would say no, but with Beatrix and Agrius, that's a different matter entirely. I think I would actually say yes. I think Guardbringer is one of the few abilities that's worth making more than one of, because it's so powerful. Well, anyway, I have this rated at 50 out of 100, plus 10 with either OSB or BSB. It's just not good enough. It's just not good enough. This is not what makes Gladiolus what he is. It's just, it's something, you know? You're not going to be legend diving Gladiolus, most likely. So at least it's a passive effect for him, right? It's just not that good, so that's why it gets the 50 or 60. Next up, we have Iris's LMR. Bracer, 25% chance to dual cast white magic abilities. Yee. White mages yearn for the double cast Legend here. Iris struts her stuff here with something that sets her apart from Larsa. It has no recurrence, and I have it at 60 out of 100. Why do I have it at 60, which is really high, when we have both of these at 50 base? Because Iris LMR does not recur, but Iris's BSB does recur on the next Final Fantasy 15 event, and that kind of sort of answers the question. Not totally. So I'm still going to go into it, Dawn. Your question about what I'd be really happy with on this banner, since this is exclusive to this banner, I would be very happy if alls I picked up was Iris's LMR, because then I could throw 50 on the next Final Fantasy 15 event and have another chance at Iris's BSB. But together, Iris's LMR with her BSB, double casts on that BSB is just awesome together, and that turns Iris into a super healer. So this guy is something to look out for. And next we move into the Super Soul Breaks. And since this is the first one, I want to talk about the banner format. This is a unique banner format. If I went 1 of 11 with Iris's LM, would I be done? Yes I would. I would spend 50 on the next Final Fantasy 15 banner instead of spending 50 more on this one. So this is a unique banner format. I think it appears one other time, so not totally unique, but anyway, it's not the normal banner format. You know, usually the last Super Soul Break on the banner is 1%. Well, that doesn't happen here because we have 3 LMR. This is something we haven't seen yet. And what this does is it moves a 1%er off the end of the banner, and what we get instead is 3 Super Soul Breaks instead of 4. And all 3 Super Soul Breaks are 2%ers. There's no 1% at the end. It's 2, 2, 2. So it's a different banner format. And this is a good thing, and you'll find out when I get to the last Super Soul Break. The first one, Gladiolus Super. Sword. Attack 50% all allies, and grants Last Stand. Last Stand is prevents KO once, restoring HP for 1% of maximum HP. It's a good super. It's a Minfilia Super Soul Break clone. It's a source of Last Stand at least. Probably the worst pull on the banner, but not an awful complimentary piece for Gladiolus if you're able to pull other stuff for him. Really, I am in this situation right now with Minfilia. All I have with her is this Super Soul Break, and she just has it on a shield or something. But anyway, it's the exact same thing. And I don't use her. I don't use her outside of Sid missions. It's not useful by any stretch of the imagination. It's just a complimentary piece with Gladiolus. So I have it rated lowly, and it at least gets brought up to a 50 if you've got other things for him. Because it's something you can cast in a full throttle situation. Alright, next up we have Iris Super Soul Break. Light Armor, Choker. Does non-elemental damage, 5 group attacks, and grants haste and critical 50% to all allies. That's pretty nice. Nothing wrong with Haskas, and being able to increase the attack of your allies is good too. I like these kind of soul breaks because they work well with supers and USBs that buff you but don't have Haska attached with them. So it's really nice. But at the end of the day, it's only a super. Don't let me talk it up too much. Weird that it's not elemental damage coming from a White Mage. Regardless, this is a great Super Soul Break. A straight upgrade to Realm's old Brush Up. Complementary and standalone, this is a decent pull. No, that would be, I believe, high critical is what we're calling that. Or no. I'll go look at what the status is called for you, Strider. Chant. Critical damage plus 50%. So, critical 50% would be crit rate. Weird that it... Yeah, I already went over all of that. So, I got it at 50 of 100, because it really is... It's only a super, but it's plus 10 with BSB. 60 for a super is actually quite high. Because it is good. It's good, and it's on a good character. And it's really a great complementary piece to Iris. If she can be a huge boon to a party by using this and her BSB together in a full throttle. And last, but not least, we have Noctis's Super Soul Break. Air Step Sword. It is a sword, a non-elemental, and instant cast. Again, Noctis with his instant cast madness. 6 single attacks, grants instant cast 1 to all allies. More instant cast, total bullshit madness. It's a little silly that something this powerful exists as a Super Soul Break, but here we are. Non-elemental, instant cast speed, granting instant cast 1 to the party is the stuff dreams are made of from a character with a high damage potential. With this, Noctis can fit onto any team and improve it, reducing your effective need for strong characters to fill teams of any element. This is a rare gift in this very elementally focused game. Does it lose value? That's up to you, Craig. Ramza can do a lot of stuff. So, I'll put it this way. Ramza can spam his USB, but you don't really want to, because all you're getting is instacast out of it. Because it's a 25-second duration regardless. Casting it again doesn't make it any stronger. So it's nice to have Ramza use it and then, wrath up to another one and then use that. And then go back to it and alternate. So there's a lot of downtime in between those two USB casts where you could be Super Soul Breaking with Noctis. And Realm is similar in the fact that she doesn't have access to Wrath or Life Siphon, which means she can only cast it so often, so there's still a large gap in between there, which you can fit in Noctis' Super Soul Break. Does it make it harder to use? Does it make you have to think more about when to use it? Yes. But honestly, if I could have instacast every turn of the battle, and plan it out to have instacast every turn of the battle, I would. That's a really, really powerful team. The damage output would be insane. So, no. I would not say it loses value. So description. Oh, yeah, I said the description already. Recurrence, it does recur on the next Final Fantasy 15 event. Rating, 80 of 100. I don't think I've ever given a Super Soul Break such a high rating, and it's unlikely that I ever will. And plus 10 with LMR. If you have its LMR, it does make it even better, because while you probably want to be life siphoning most of the time with this, you could use full charge or Omega Drive as your second ability slot and kind of loop those in there. Remember, Omega Drive actually gives a lot of Soul Break generation. Not close to Life Siphon, but it's quite a bit because it's a 6-star ability. So by using this, Ace Striker, and Life Siphon and Omega Drive, you're turning Noctis into a high damage, or at least someone who can hold his own. That's all you're looking for with Noctis with his super. And I think that's my point with this, is you just want him to be able to contribute damage to the party, because the main thing that he's providing to your party is speed and increasing the DPS of other people in the party.
Are you drunk? Not drunk enough.
I want to hear her.
Do the dance, Daj Kappa.
Okay. So what you want to do, and why I personally, this is a personal rating. All of these are like personal ratings, not from my standpoint in the game, but in how I feel that these affect the game. I look at teams, and that's kind of what I tried to go into here, but I don't feel like I did it accurately enough. When would you fit full charge? During his instacast charge. So you cast this instant, and then on the next turn you have an instacast charge to use. That's when I would full charge, and then I would go back to life siphoning until I use the super again, and then it's just the one turn after. That would be when I'd do it. Oh, Omega Drive you could use whenever you want because that's the same cast time as Life Siphon. But Full Charge would need, in order for it to be useful to you, you would want to use it after the Super. So why I feel that this is good, and if anyone's been here for me talking about the Magicite dungeons, you go into the team building process for a Magicite dungeon being, okay, I need a healer or two. I probably need a buffer or a support buffer, and truster, and then 2 or 3, depending on, those 2 slots, because sometimes you want, a buffer and an entruster, or, 2 healers, because sometimes 2 healers are required. And then you fill up the rest of the party with people that deal damage. And in Magicite dungeons, you're funneled, or they try to funnel you into exploiting a certain weakness. So what we've been doing ever since we learned about these is started creating teams that fulfill those requirements. So say Sea Lion, he's weak to fire. I only have one character that's capable of dealing a lot of fire damage right now, and that's Refia. So what do? I have 4 other slots that I need to contribute to the team, and I want to complete the highest difficulty of the challenge of Magicite, which means I need to defeat the boss in 30 seconds. So how the hell am I going to do that with only one fire damage dealing character? What do? That's where stuff like Noctis' Super Soul Break comes in. He joins the fight because he's like, oh, that's fine. He's an omni-resist boss, and he takes extra damage from fire. Well, that's fine. I'm non-elemental. I don't care. And he can do this to any team and fill up one of those damage dealing slots, because what he does, and his function on the team, is to be like, hey, Refia, do you want to do some stuff instantly? I'm pretty sure you want to do some stuff instantly. So what you would do is you'd make it so every time like Refia was going to use her burst or USB once we get to that point, but for me it would be her burst. I would use this and then remove that 2.5 cast time on her burst and make it faster. It makes everything better. If you've used Realm's USB or Ramza's USB, you get it. You probably get it. At least I feel like you would get it. It just makes everything better. Will puts it perfectly. It makes everything better. You just notice things working better than they did, because there's such smaller windows, larger windows. You're increasing your opportunities. And that's what Noctis does, and that's why it's great that he's non-elemental, because he can do this for any team. Not just, Refia on Sea Lion, but somebody else on another team as well. I just don't think that there's a more valuable super. Is it USB level? Yeah, Ram's USB is absolutely amazing. It is my favorite RW right now. Yeah. It's insane. And it gets better because we haven't even entered the age of the fights that require them to be finished faster for more rewards, I mean, think about it. Once we enter those, Instacast 1 to all allies is just a disgusting buff. Isn't using Life Siphon when you have his LMR kind of a waste when you could be spamming OD or something? Well, yeah, but spamming, that's the problem. Can you spam OD? You can only spam it so much. And I agree. If I had an R3 or R4 OD, I would be using that. Probably more towards the end of the fight because, mostly bosses get stronger the further the fight goes. So I'd start out by using Life Siphon more. And then I would make sure that I would start using Omega Drive at a point in the fight where I make sure I would use all of my Omega Drive charges. Remember, he is going to be attacking quite quickly, so you're going to be sucking through those charges. it's, I mean, you're right, Craig. It is kind of a waste because double casting Life Siphon sucks. But his goal in the fight is to provide instacast to or one to the rest of the party. And that's why I tried to say, Omega Drive and Full Charge. Use them when you can. With Full Charge, you use it less often because you don't want to be using it if you don't have instacast. But Omega Drive, you're right. You're absolutely right. If you've got the charges, use them because it's super powerful in his hands. So not only if you've got a well-honed Omega Drive, is he giving instacast one to the rest of the party, but he's doing a considerable amount of damage as well, with a chance of dual cast. I mean, I could be wrong. I want to make that clear. I haven't used this. I'm completely theory crafting this up. But I feel like it's really powerful. I feel like it is as powerful as I'm saying it is here. And this is, I'm going to go over this in the banner overview. This is only one way to play Noctis. And remember, don't forget, Noctis is LM2. He starts the battle with haste and instant cast 3. So that's another incentive to use Full Charge if you want. You can either start out the battle instant casting full charges, or you can Life Siphon if you want. Life Siphon is the cheap option, and if you're more reliant on the instant cast 1 to all allies, I'd probably Life Siphon instead. But you can also just the LM2 is stupid. And it's like just roll all of this together, the LMR, the LM2, his Super Soul Break, which works outside of the scope of his BSB and his OSB and USB combo. There's so many different ways to play Noctis. And that's why I'm really excited about the character. I think he's really fun. He's a really fun way to play the game. So something I did not talk about in the banner overview, I at least I don't think I did, is what do you do if you have everything on this banner of Noctis? What do you do? Well, I don't use his OSB. Like I said, I don't think it's that great without his USB or without a lot of sources of Stone Skin 30% in your party, so you can keep refreshing that 30%. The problem is, even 30% can be taken off in one turn by some bosses. It's a tough sell. If you're only getting 30%, I really want that 100% from the USB if I want to make that Armiger status work. But anyway, so that leaves us with the BSB and the Super Soul Break. How do I use those? Well, because he does everything so quickly, Armiger does stack with Shout, yes. The statuses that I put here, and I'm going to be making a buff stacking guide on the site eventually, but the statuses that I put here are they exist outside. Yeah, like Adia says, it's a unique status. And what we mean by unique is that it exists outside the normal stat increasing buffs. And Combat King does too. So, like, think of... oh, we passed it. Didn't we? Or, there's a third one? Okay, so Combat King... So why didn't I just write, it gives him attack, defense, and resistance plus 30%? Because it's not attack and defense and resistance plus 30%. It's the Combat King unique status, which means it would stack with anything that does just attack and defense and resistance plus 30%. And that's why I don't think anyone really needs to know the status IDs, but I include them here anyway as an extra indicator that these are unique, and they do stack with the regular buff statuses. All right, so I spent a long time on that. But anyway, his Super Soul Break and his Burst Soul Break. He does everything so quickly that he generates more Soul Break points than anybody else. So how would I run both of these together? Could you entrust Noctis and use and alternate his BSB and his Super Soul Break? I think you could. I think you could. But I think he would be very much reliant on using Life Siphon at that point, if you wanted to use both of them together, even within Trust. It depends. I can't speak to that personally. I think within Trust, maybe you don't. Maybe you use Full Charge. Or no, maybe you use like Omega Drive. Because you're getting the extra Soul Break points. You can maintain one yourself, and then someone else is helping you, loop in the other one. But the thing is, I mean, that's the thing that I was trying to get across when I was talking with Craig about Life Siphon versus Omega Drive. 5-star modes, he takes Bravery and Dexterity. Is that he benefits so much from using Life Siphon. Anyway, banner overview. It's a long one, so I'm going to get into it. I've spilled many words about this banner already. Even in the stream alone I have. And now that I've gone over it in detail, I can confidently say that I feel as good about it as I have since the first time I learned of it. Noctis, with his excellent legend materia, ability access, and well-designed soul breaks that capitalize on his strengths, is an S-tier character with the right pieces. Strangely enough, that strength comes in different varieties. The BSB alone is good, but needs the LMR to break through. It's true. Well, it's a super soul break that can stand alone as an A-team worthy relic. Each are boosted considerably by the LMR, and I'd personally be hoping to pick up that and the super soul break to give me the green light in legend diving him. The strength doesn't stop there. While Gladiolus represents a less often used element, it'll be no less valuable to have Earth characters when Magicite dungeons come around. He's above average at the roll, and takes it a step further with his OSB, which is a great relic in its own right and worthy of excitement alone. Which is why it's puzzling that I rated it 60 out of 100 instead of 70. Finally, Iris. This demon-slaying white dancer gets saddled with a stellar Astro BSB and the enviable dual-cast LMR. With fantastic stats for her class, dancer access, and relics like that, she immediately shoots up the charts as one of the best healers in the game. The beauty of this banner is that not only do you probably not have anything from it, but almost everything on the banner is good to great to fantastic. I can easily suggest at least dropping 50 Mithril on it, and possibly more if you can afford it in this rel of remarkable banners. I'll be going in for 50 to 100, hoping for that Noctis Super Soul Break, but I like the fact that there's only a small chance I'll walk away unsatisfied with the decision. Something I didn't note here, and I remember, so you don't need to remind me, Don, is it's very important for us to take a look at the next Final Fantasy 15 banner. Because you want to see what recurs and what doesn't, because it's actually not all that far after this. That last opening sequence should be changed from probably not to definitely do not have. Well, the probably not is there for a reason, because Noctis' OSB has appeared on a banner before. So it's not definitely. So what I'm going to do here is take a look at my event list. And we go down to the Final Fantasy 15 banner, which I have projected to start on October 19th. And we'll take a look at the banner relic list. So we're just going to look at recurrences for the second. So Prompto and Aranea are all removed from that. So we have Noctis' BSB.
Not drunk enough.
Thank you, Jimbo, very much.
Thanks for another great preview.
I really appreciate it. Noctis and Iris BSBs. The only legend materia that recurs here is Noctis's. The other two slots are taken by Aranea and Prompto. This is a good thing because Gladiolus' LMR isn't that great. However, and what I talked about, is that Iris' LMR does not show up here, so it would be a good pull off of that first banner. And in the Super Soul Break section, again, everyone gets knocked off for Prompto and Aranea, except for, thank goodness, Noctis' Super Soul Break. So, this kind of leads into what am I looking for with my 50 to 100 Mithril off of this Final Fantasy 15 banner. Obviously, the power stuff. I wouldn't be unhappy with Noctis' OSB. It's not one of my best pulls on the banner, because it would kind of force me into pulling for Noctis' USB, and that's a pretty hard force, because it's probably going to be on a really good banner. We're not sure, but it probably will be. Isn't this my next target? No, my next target after Final Fantasy 15, or if you're talking about the Noctis Gladiolus Iris banner, it is my next target, yes. So we have Noctis' OSB, doesn't recur here, which is fine, but I'd want his USB to use with it. Or his other stuff, because it is an OSB, regardless, so it's going to do a lot of damage. It's a decent finisher. It could just be a lot better with his USB. The next one after the Final Fantasy 15 event, not this, because this is not a planned pull. This is kind of a shared event with the current but the next week's Final Fantasy 15 event, because they're tied together, and that's what I'm going into now. But yes, Final Fantasy 5 is my next huge target. My next real target. And that's 2 events after 15. So, moving down the list, we get Gladiolus' OSB. I would love Gladiolus' OSB. That would be a pull that I would be very happy with, because this is something that doesn't recur. It's a 6-star native fire sword. And, Gladiolus does not care about that at all, but you know who does? Bartz. Bartz very much cares about that, because he is a huge fire spell blade. So this is a big deal for Bartz. And Celeste, too, for that matter. So, this is an awesome relic, and it doesn't recur, so that would be great. If I pulled this would be something that would allow me to go, well, I don't have anything for Steiner. But I do have Celeste's BSB too, and I plan on pulling heavily on Bart's USB banner. So I'm talking about personally here. Next, Gladiolus' BSB. I don't really care about it that much. I do want Earth People, but consider that on the Final Fantasy V banner, which is 2 events after this, comes with Bart's USB, Earth, Bart's BSB 3, Earth, Dorgon BSB, Earth, and Bart's LMR, which also allows him to be Earth. So it's actually a pretty heavy Earth banner. So I'm not really hurting, unless I get shafted hard, and I guess there's a total possibility that'll happen. I'm not really super in the market for Gladiolus BSB.
Not drunk enough.
コンファーミド、ラージプレファーズアースピープルオーバーエイリアンピープル
We have to get Adia some English speech lessons. So this would be something that doesn't recur, that it's fine, I would like it, but it wouldn't be something that would make me happy to go into the next banner. So it's not a big one. Iris BSB does recur. Noctis BSB does recur. Noctis LMR does recur, but I want it anyway because it's that pivotal to what makes Noctis work so well, other than his Super Soul Break. Gladiolus LMR does not recur, and I'm glad I don't want this. This is not that much of a boon to Gladiolus, even if you have everything that he has. Iris LMR definitely would like it very much. This would, along with Gladiolus' OSB, be the yes! I can take my remaining 50 Mithril and spend it on the next 15 banner instead. Gladiolus Super Soul Break, don't want. I'm glad it doesn't recur, but this is why at the end of this banner, I put, there is only a small chance I'll walk away unsatisfied with the decision, That would be Gladiolus' Super Soul Break and Gladiolus' LMR. Those are the two boobs on the banner, and I would not be thrilled to be getting them. Next up, Eurus' Super Soul Break. It should be fine. It's not on the next banner, and it works really well as long as you have other things for Eurus. Also, would be a huge submission item, so it would be good regardless. Noxus Super Soul Break is... I don't care if it recurs or not, I just want it. And if it appeared in my inventory with my 50 mithril, I would just be happy that it's there. It's not one of the best banners. I think you bring up the best point about this banner is that it's consistent across the board. It's there are not any banners that are this good from top to bottom. While the Final Fantasy V banner and probably the Final Fantasy VI banner as well are both definitely stronger overall, like as far as, you know, potential. It's a gambling game after all, and this reduces the chance of failure. Well, I mean, normally that means you're settling, right? But in this case, you're getting synergy for a realm that you have no synergy for. And you have the possibility to get some really awesome stuff off the banner. There are not. Doesn't sound like proper English. It is. I forgot about the engine blade. We do have a shared soul break. Yeah, so I got a few minutes. Hell, even if you just get the super soul breaks on the banner, you're set for CM. I agree. That's why I suggest what I'm suggesting is I can easily suggest at least dropping 50. It will pay dividends, and you may luck into something really good on the banner while you're at it. And even then, pulling both Gladios and Iris' Super Soul Breaks mean you have In-Realm Shout, so your Final Fantasy 15 CMs will be a breeze forever. I agree. Yep. Pull once, and then evaluate. Evaluate versus the next 15 event. Dirge, I do have a question. What skills should Sephiroth have besides Life Siphon? I have his OSB, BSB. Hailstorm? BSB 2 or BSB 1? I think 2 because you pulled on the Vincent event, right? Hailstorm. Stupid question, probably because I'm late, but did I go over Type 0? No. Remember, Sketch, I go over distant previews on Sundays. And not just Realm Shout Wander. Shout plus Crit Fix, yeah. Oh, then don't pull, Dragon. Dawn, you could also use Death Throws, which is a 4-star darkness ability. It's exactly like Memento Mori, except for physical characters. It's... It is delicious for 50 mithril. And then, you know, some people will want to go out in for it more. But 50, that's the beauty of it. Like, Even veteran players don't really care that much about realm synergy anymore. Because, I mean, we have a lot of really strong relics, and we can be pretty strong in almost any realm. But alright. Yeah, I don't know where I was going with that. What if I already have SBSB and pull on 5? Better pick up Noctis stuff in the next 15 event. Also, I don't have any lightning except for Ash OSB. I mean, you're gonna have to look at the list, Raccoon. Yes, it has good lightning on the banner. I think Prompto's really good, honestly. At the same time, you have Ash's OSB, and you want to know a banner I also plan on going after? That's Ash's USB banner. Well, that's the thing is, Solus, it could be a game-changing pull. The banner isn't bad. It isn't like flat and generally good. It's generally good with some highs on it. Iris is one of the best healers in the game, and everything that makes her one of the best healers in the game is on this banner. No, Ash USB is different. It's an actual chase USB. Ace's USB is a rapid fire type, while Ash's is a chase. Which is funny considering that Ace's has something called chase on it, but it's more of a flavor instead of actually something serious. Oh, yeah. Okay, I know what you're talking about now. I'm sorry. I forgot what the animation was. Yeah, it is. It is horrible, but it's so powerful. And Ash's OSB doesn't show up on that banner. I wish it did. I wish it showed up instead of Vaughn's USB. Which is why just having Ash's OSB means, okay, it's go time. That's a good banner to turn Ash into a monster. Yeah, me too. They're probably active already. But I haven't had a chance to look at them. I haven't had much of a chance to look at animations lately. No, I don't have time, Will. That's why I'm not doing that. Once I go into the animation hole, I don't come out for a while. I need to end stream soon. So does anyone have any further questions about this event, or what's important here is the events around it? Because remember, we are still in the gauntlet. This is a 15 event. Then next we have the 11 event, which is also good. And then the 5 event. This is where I'm probably going to be tapped after this event. Gone. The first banner of this event is phenomenal. And then the 4 event, which got moved up, which also has a good banner. I'm a little less thrilled with the banner itself. This is one of those banners that has a remarkably good high end with Edge's USB and Rose's USB, but there's a pretty large drop off after that. Since I don't have time today, I will do the Rebirth. Oh, Nemesis. When is Nemesis set to come out? Did we get a announcement for that? Rebirth Dungeon Phase 2. No, we don't have an announcement for that yet. But I know we have the date in mind. I just forgot when it is. The top is so good. I mean, Edge's USB and Rose's USB are phenomenal. It's just... I'm just really not that thrilled with what comes after. But I'll go into that. The 6th event is also really good too. Support and dark damage. Let's see what KBP has mined for it. Tentative. Nemesis. Tuesday. So I'd be doing Nemesis on Tuesday. It would be my normal Record Keeper stream. I wouldn't have to do anything special for that. But for the today's Rebirth and Saturday's Rebirth, I will do those on Sunday. Yeah. I've definitely stopped using it. But one thing that they do provide that I can't is data mining. And that's where these dates come from. They're from actual timestamps that are mined from within the game. Obviously not concrete. I mean, as has been shown before. But these are mined dates. Well, anyway, then it ends. This is when the gauntlet ends, is September 14th. So still have a month left of this. Yeah, Gordon's USB is really good. It would be nice for it to show up somewhere else. What are legend motes? Legend motes are 5-star motes. Well, there's 2 different 5-star motes. One is... bravery, dexterity, wisdom, those are legend motes. While you also have class motes, which, Spellblade, Ninja, Machinist. Those are for opening up 6-star ability usage on people. So instead of just calling them 5-star motes, I separate them into legend motes and class motes. Orlando's BSB full buffed and debuffed with full Holy Imperiled as 270k, yeah. That doesn't surprise me. Well, think of all that setup that takes. Orlando's BSB full buffed and debuffed with full Holy Imperiled does 270k. And he does it slowly. So that's even more setup if you want it to be not slowly by using Power Chain. And you need to use Cloud's USB as well. So... 270k isn't that... It's not even remotely unfair, I don't think. It's just a lot of damage that rewards you for your setup. Yes, Chain Affinity. You can find it on my website. Oh, but this review itself... the video review will be on YouTube and on the site. And Discord. Alright, so yeah, I've pretty much decided. I have got animations linked to the images, but in the future I'm just going to put those on the heading. It'll be more obvious if they're links.